This is the ABQ Business Podcast with your host, Jason Rigby. Each week we'll interview visionary business leaders to inspire the creative power and spirit that's in every entrepreneur. Discussing strengths, weaknesses, strategies, systems, and the problems we can all solve together for a new future for local small business.
What is up, guys? Super excited about the show today. We're going to talk about baseball and leadership. And this is an episode that I've been, Claudio, we've been talking, I think, for like 2 or 3 weeks, going over this back and forth. So I'm super excited to have you on the show. I want to go a little bit and let everyone know. Claudio Reilsono is the head baseball coach of Carnegie Mellon University since 2005. You're the Carnegie Mellon University District 5 Conference Champions 2015 and 2016, General Manager, Professional Baseball Scout, Global Scouting Bureau, 19 years Professional Baseball Scout, 22 years college coach. You've signed 62 players, this is amazing, to pro contracts all over the world. You were elected to the Pittsburgh Sportsline Hall of Fame, and you were named the Italian Coach of the Year by the Italian American Sports Hall of Fame. I mean, that's a lot of, you've spent a lot of time in baseball.
I have. And when you said 37 years I've been involved in it, I remember my first year as a head coach. We have something here called the WPIAL, and that's the governing body of high school baseball. So they made a big deal about me being the youngest coach in WPIAL. Then a couple of years later, I was age 25, coaching my first year as a head coach in college. They said, you're the youngest coach in high school. Okay. Then I became one of the youngest coaches in college. Now I think I'm the second oldest around, so it's going quick.
No, that's awesome.
But I'm glad I'm still around.
And like one of the things that I think a lot of people don't understand is whether it's, I think there are two important areas that are in people's lives, what careers they choose, and where there's just tremendous amounts of leadership. And of course, the sports, I think, is one, and then the military is number two. But yet we see like we don't get a lot of leadership that is coming out of that, or a lot of books that are written. And so I was so glad that you took the years and years of experience that you have coaching, because that's really what leadership is, and we'll get into that in your book. And bringing that forward, what caused you to be able to say, hey, I'm going to write a book so that I can assist and help business leaders?
I talked to a friend of mine a lot, and he's been with this one particular company for about 28 years now. And there has not been a day that goes by that he does not complain about that, the way he gets treated by the higher ups. And then so many players have come to me and said that they didn't like the way the coach did this, or they didn't like the way the coach did that. And then I've seen some things with my own eyes. And as I started off in the book in 1993, there was a back and forth game, and we eventually win the game. It was a regular season game, and the players came up to me and they congratulated me. Hey, coach, great job! And I'll never forget, Jason. I was in my office and I couldn't even get up, and I was totally drained, and I'm like that all my games. Vince Lombardi said the greatest feeling in the world is to lie exhausted in victory. The second greatest feeling in the world is to lie exhausted in defeat.
Right.
And I'm just always exhausted. But I said, why is it these players like me so much? Why is it that they care for me? Why is it that they want to win for me? And why is it that they listen to me? I was 27 at the time, and they were approximately 20, 21. And then the things that came to my head were I'm approachable, and they know that I care. Right. So I want to let people know, leaders out there, that you don't have to be Mr. Tough Guy. You don't have to be hard just for the sake of being hard. Now, when it's called for, of course, but I just think that I had something to offer people. Then in the middle of the book, which you mentioned, I have a ton of questions and answers from a lot of different people, from CEOs to owners of different companies to coaches. And I just thought I had something to offer, and I really wanted to share that with people and have impact on people.
No, I love that. And the title of the book is Lead from the Heart Up, Not the Neck Up. And I know one of the things in your book, you talked about this kind of being a quote from your mom. What type of woman was she, and or is she, and what caused this for you to make the title of your book this?
Well, thank you for asking about her. Unfortunately, she passed 32 years ago in October. She was only 48. My mom came over here from Italy, and she was just the strongest woman. She loved me more than anything. She believed in anything. She believed I could do anything. And she was very affectionate with me, but at the same time, if I got off the tracks just a hair, she made sure that, that was put back in my tracks, because she really, really loved me a ton. And, but she always believed in me. She always believed that I could make it in professional baseball. That became her dream as well, Jason. And unfortunately, in 1988, she passed away of stomach cancer. And I remember being at the casket and was just devastated. And, I always say that's the first time I ever kissed my mom, and she didn't kiss me back. And I remember my dad walking over to me, and he said, "I know what you're thinking." And he could just tell, because I could care less about baseball at that time. I was 23. I was going to quit everything, to be very honest with you, because I was just devastated. And he said, you can't give up her dream. Really, it was both of their dream as well, but you can't give up on her dream. She promised you that she would fight, and she did. Now you have to keep your promise to her that you will continue chasing this dream of being in professional baseball, which you've had since you were 8 years old. And I'm not kidding. I'm not trying to be, dramatic here, but I actually, in my head, just start hearing that Rocky theme. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not kidding you. And I said, I still kind of feel kind of a sensation even telling you about it. And I said, okay. I grabbed my mom's hand. I said, look, I promise you, I don't know what's going to happen, but I promise you, I'm going to go after this with everything I have. And I did. But she was just a wonderful person. She was a fantastic cook. She loved sports. She knew more about sports than my dad did. My dad never questioned any moves I made. Why did I steal this guy? My mom said, why did you steal that guy? Why did you when I played? Why did you overthrow that? She was a huge sports fan, and it was because of me. It was just something that we could connect together, and miss her every day. We named my daughter after her, Ida. And I was lucky. I had the greatest parents in the world, Jason. I really did. There's an old saying. You mentioned that Italian Coach of the Year. The first thing I said when I got that award was, if you ever see a turtle on top of a fence post, he didn't get there alone.
Mm-hmm.
And wherever it is that I'm at in life, if it wasn't for my parents' love and support, forget it. And talk about leadership real quick. When my dad got sick in '69, she took over. My dad's first wife had passed when she was 32. He had 2 kids with her, and then my sister had a child. So in this house were 7 people. It was me, my mom, my dad, my half brother, half sister, her son, her husband, and my mom had to spread that money around and take care of everybody, and we never missed a beat. And so she had to take over until my dad got better. And like I said, none of us ever missed a beat. And she was quite a woman for sure.
No, that's amazing. And what a tribute for her. And I know the book, especially in the very beginning of the book, you talk about that. But one of the things that you just mentioned, which I thought was powerful in the book also, was that moment when you were wanting to drop everything and you're sitting next to the casket and your dad comes up to you and shows leadership and shows coaching. And you had several stories in the book where, it was the same, these young players, they were kind of going through the same thing. And you were like, go take time off, go handle that. And I know we're skipping right now into a little bit of the book, but I think that's so important as a leader to understand exactly, to be close enough where you can understand what's going on personally in someone's life. Maybe you could talk to that a little bit.
Well, everybody wants to be treated with respect, Jason. Everybody wants to be cared for, and everybody has problems. I don't care who you are. You're going to have issues. You're going to have something pop up.
Right.
And, I know some of the stories that you're talking about, obviously. And, if I wasn't there for them, who's going to be? Some of these guys don't live around here. Their fathers and mothers are far away. So I'm the guy. And what kind of a person, what kind of a leader would I be? Forget about coach. What kind of a person would I be if they need me and I shun them away? I push them away, and then some coaches don't want to get involved in that. And I illustrate that in the book as well. But to me, I'd want to be I want to be the type of coach, friend, husband, father that I would want. And like I said, it's one thing to be a coach. That's terrific. But, these people are not just players. They're not just students, but they're people. Or they're
Right.
not just employees. They have families. Uh, feelings as well. They have, as we said, they have problems. And I tried to be there for them because that's first and foremost. And again, like there's one story in the book where one of my players had he was, I don't know what was going on. He was kind of flat that day. So I went up to him. I said, "What's going on?" He said, "I'm having problems with my girlfriend." I told him to leave. And he looked at me like his eyes were as big as a dish. He said, "What do you mean?" I said, "Just go take care of it." Because he was at practice, but he wasn't at practice. So
Right.
what was the sense of having him there for 2 hours, going through the motions, not doing well? I said, "Go take care of it and just sneak in some batting practice on your own when you get a chance." And he took off and he took care of things. And that kid gave me even more than he gave me before because he appreciated that I looked at him as a person first, not just a player.
Yes, and that's something I think that is timeless and shows the ability of your coaching skills. One of the things you have in the book, and you have it throughout the book, and I thought it was really not just informative but fun too, is you have these two words called huddle up.
Yeah. Well, before I talk about the huddle up, you mentioned the title of the book. And my mom used to always say, never speak from the neck up, speak from the heart up. In other words, care about what you're saying, be passionate about what you're saying, mean what you say, and say what you mean. So I just turned it around and made it lead from the heart up, not the neck up. But as far as huddle up is concerned, what I did in the book is I would tell a few stories, and then I would kind of give you a synopsis under that frame of huddle up, that title, huddle up. So before every game, we huddle up and we go over, it's a motivational thing, right? And then during the game, I'll call a huddle up, maybe around the third inning, sixth inning. It depends when it's needed. And just to kind of give an overview of the game real quick, because you only have like a minute.
Right.
Okay. And you have to tell everybody, okay, here's what's going wrong. We have to fix it, or here's what's going right. We have to do more of it. Or if there's an adjustment made. So, and just kind of giving a synopsis of the game real quick, or just telling the guys what's going on, what we need to do better, what we need to fix, or what they're doing well. And it's not just, hey, you guys need to do this. Hey, you guys are really doing well. We got to keep it up, whatever the situation calls for. But in the book, the huddle up is just to kind of go over the past few stories and just kind of give a synopsis of kind of what you should do in those cases.
Yeah, and I think for me, as a leader, when I was reading, because you have them throughout each of the chapters, the huddle ups, and it's kind of synopsis of what you were talking about. But for me, it was like, why don't I do these more? Why can't I take 1 to 5 minutes and get everybody together really quick, just to, like you said, to make that adjustment real quick, to make it like on the fly?
Yeah, I mean, life is full of adjustments. I always use this as an example. If it's raining out, you put up an umbrella. If it's cold out, you put on a jacket. If it's hot, you put on shorts and a t-shirt. We have to make adjustments in life, and that's something that I'm very cognizant of. And what do they say? The only thing that is for sure is change, or something along those lines.
Right. Yes.
Everything's always changing, right? And especially in the course of a game, so many things happen. So and as a player, you kind of worry about yourself. You have to take care of your own house, so to speak. But as a coach, you have to take care of the 9 houses that are out there. So they may not see something that the shortstop, the second baseman may not see what the left fielder needs to do, or the center fielder may not see what the first baseman needs to do. So that's my job, either on defense or offense, to make adjustments or see what the pitcher is doing. So I think it's good in any business to kind of reevaluate yourself, see what you're doing, see what your player or your employees are doing, what your players are doing, and then go from there. And another thing that kind of ties in is a quote that I heard years ago: is you treat everybody equally, but you don't treat them the same. Certain people you can kind of get on, certain people you have to kind of talk to a little bit differently. So that's all in the huddle up, and you should know that going into the huddle. But it's always good to kind of step back, see what's going on, make a quick adjustment. Because I'll say this: It's a lot like, for example, cutting our grass. It's a lot easier to cut our grass when it's maybe 3 inches high, 4 inches high, as opposed to 10 inches high, 12, 16 inches high, right? So let's nip things in the bud now before they get out of hand. Be it on the field or in the office.
Yeah, no, I love that. And I think a lot of times as leaders, we put that off. And one of the things that you had in the book in one of the beginning chapters was the cold shoulder. But before you get into that, I kind of want to preface it for the business side of things, because I began to think of people that I may not get along with, that I'm leading, or someone that's kind of just has a different personality. And they kind of maybe an introvert or maybe a little bit of a loner or something like that. They're a good person. We just don't gel. And you talked about that, like leaders giving somebody a cold shoulder and how you coach through that.
Yeah, and I'm with you 1,000%. Look, not everybody's going to be like you, and that's fine. Rocky Graziano, the former middleweight champ of the world, boxing champion, years ago, one of the last things he ever said, I believe, was to his daughter, let people be who they are. And I get that. You're not going to make somebody who's an introvert, somebody who's quiet or a loner, you're not going to make him the life of the party, nor should you try to. Okay. But, at the same time, if you are that way, you do have to make an adjustment. Like, for example, if an employee or a player does need something, if he needs your help, don't give him the cold shoulder. Don't be that way. Maybe get out of your comfort zone and break that ice. You don't have to be that way all the time. That's, like I said, one of the reasons of the book, and that's at the top of the show. Maybe you're not comfortable. You might not be as passionate physically, like as demonstrative, let's say, as myself or whoever it is, right? But that doesn't mean that you can't show concern or you can't show that you care. Some of the people, that one particular person you're talking to, he just, especially with me, I mean, he was just, we just weren't each other's cup of tea, and that's fine. But we still should have been able to work together. And I tried very hard as an assistant coach to work with him. But for whatever reason, I have my opinions on it. He just didn't, he never warmed up to me. He never thought that anything I said was right. He stripped me of every bit of confidence that I ever had. And it took me, and it's my fault because I allowed it. Eleanor Roosevelt said nobody can bother you unless you give them your consent.
Right.
And I obviously gave him my consent. And it was hell. It was hell. And I hated, the players were great, but, this guy and I just were not, we just didn't mix. We just didn't mesh well. And, but that's just the way he was. I'm not here to insult anybody. I'm not here to say, oh, everybody should be like me. And I'm not saying that at all. He just was one of those people. That's just what he did. And I think one of the reasons why, and I saw him in action a few times here and there, he would go by the book regardless of the thing he just heard or read in that book was pertinent to the situation. You know what I'm saying? He just would just do it. Okay. He never had a feel for people. And, so that's just the way it was. And, it was tough, but I learned from it. If a few people didn't treat me bad, then there'd be no book. And,
Right.
It's just the way it is. A friend of mine who's a former 5-time world champion boxer, his name is Vinny Pazienza. He won 2 world titles, got in a car accident, was paralyzed for a little bit. Then he was able to walk. They put a body cast on him. They screwed all the stuff in his head. He's still training with it. It's on YouTube. Go look at Vinny Paz and you'll see it. And he won 3 more world titles after that.
That's
right?
crazy.
And he said, and they made a movie of his life a couple years ago called Bleed for This. And he said, no accident, no movie. No bad people in my life or no tough people in my life. No book, no story. It's one thing he said. So Claudio, how was everything? Everybody treated me great, and here I am. You're not really going to have too much impact on people that way. So.
Yeah, no, and I think it's just amazing. And I think for me, because everybody, when they read a book, they get something different out of it, and something that was extremely powerful. And you mentioned this a lot especially when you're talking with your players, and you use this statement. And I think as leaders, we need to use this more. And this affected me more than anything in your book. You use a statement, and I know you're probably used to it because being a coach, but as a business leader, this is so important to say: is I'm proud of you. And you had that all throughout the book, like you would tell your players, I'm proud of you. What was that for, and why would you say that? And how could we implement that as business leaders as you were coaching these players?
That's a great question. I really don't know how to answer that other than if I said I was proud of somebody, because I was proud of them. They deserved it. They earned it. This one young man, Samir Kalori, he's in the book. We were playing, we had a game, and it was a freshman year, and he just didn't do well. And he came up to me and he said, I don't know if I can do this. I said, you can do this and then some. I said, don't worry. We're going to, he kind of expected me to punish him or whatever the case was.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of came up with another quote: fix, don't punish. Okay.
Oh, I love that.
What am I going to punish her for? Yeah, it's ridiculous to punish. The hell are you punishing for? Fix things, right? So that kid ended up being one of our team captains, being one of our best players, one of our best pitchers, and because he worked hard every day. I'm talking about 4 years. This kid came to practice. He worked hard, and so why wouldn't I say I was proud of him? I mean, Shakespeare, I believe, had a great line: "You tickle me, I laugh; you prick me, I bleed." This young man worked incredibly hard. I was very proud of him. He's in our Carnegie Mellon University Baseball Hall of Fame, and I think he mentioned at the end of the book, I have many player testimonials, and he's in there, and I believe he mentions that particular game and what happened from there. So I think you should tell people that hey, good job, or because people are sure as hell quick to tell you how bad you did.
Yes, exactly.
Okay. It kills me when people say, well, it's hard for me to say, I love you, or it's hard for me to say, great job. But it's not hard for you to say, and I had a relative like this who was just, this guy, he just did not like me, and that's fine. There was a couple guys like that in my life, and they never once, Jason, never once ever said, hey, great job, or I'm proud of you, or congratulations. Never. And some people have said, who knew them, well, they just, maybe they felt a little embarrassed to say those words, or that's just not who they were. Well, they sure as hell told me that I was going to be a bust. They sure as hell told me I was going to fail. So why couldn't they say, hey, good job? But so I just, if somebody does something good, hey, I'm very proud of you. And I'm also very thankful for a lot of the players who perhaps didn't play as much. And I'll include them in the game and say, hey, you could have been a pain because you're not playing. You could have stirred some things up. You could have started some trouble, but you didn't do that. And I appreciated it. Or if there was a foul ball, that without me saying anything, they would go get the ball, or if they would help the guys warm up. And I noticed those things. And everybody wants to be appreciated, Jason. Everybody wants to be complimented. And it's not fake either. It's not from the neck. It's not from the neck up, which is what my mom meant. It was from the heart up.
Yes.
And real quick, that one particular person you talked about with the cold shoulder, one time we were on a bus going on a road trip. Now, this guy never said anything nice to me, never gave me a compliment, never said I did anything right. So we're going on a road trip, and we're on the bus, and he says, so I saw your girlfriend drop you off. Where's she from? She's from Pittsburgh. How long have you been with her? I've known her for several years. We've been together for about a year now. And I'm like, why is he asking me these questions? Because he felt, he read somewhere that you should talk to people, because I know how the guy was. And it was from the neck up.
Right.
You could just sense that it was kind of like scripted type thing, and nobody can ever say that about me, because I can't be fake. That's just not how I was raised, and that's not how I'm wired. But back to your original question, how hard is it to tell somebody, hey, great job, I'm proud of you? And I've gotten very emotional telling guys that, because maybe they've been through in a slump, or they haven't done well, or whatever the case is. They've had to overcome some things. how could you not be proud of somebody? How could you not tell him, hey, or her, great job, or you haven't had a sale in 2 months. Now all of a sudden you've had 6 sales in a row. I'm proud of you. And that person will go through a wall, over it, underneath it, or to the side of it to make you even happier, make you even proud. That's the way I was with my parents. My parents were always, complimentary towards me, but they, if I did something wrong, obviously, hey, there's something wrong. But my original thing for all this was I want to make my parents proud. There was nothing better to me than for my parents to show emotion or to tell me, hey, I'm proud of you, everything you did, so on and so forth. And so, yeah, you should tell people that. It's not corny. It's being good. It's being human. It's leading from the heart.
Yeah, no, and I love that, and that's something that after I read your book, I'm going to implement that more. Just making sure you take, because you get so busy, that you forget to take the time to pause and have those moments. And everything that happens on the field, should happen off the field. I mean, we're with people for 6, 8, 10-hour days. So,
right.
And then tons of interaction, where a game goes 2, 3 hours, whatever, and so, for me, it's like every time that's why I love coaches. And when they start talking about leadership, because what happens on the field is, life. And
exactly.
And it's I know it's a short time frame, but you get because everybody's trying to operate at such a high level, you everything is revealed. Like it's very intimate out there, because it shows mistakes very clearly.
Exactly. Couldn't have said it better myself. You're exactly right.
So you had in the book, you had something that I thought was interesting, a great story where your guys were all showing up kind of a little late. Some of them were in traffic. Some of them have gotten some fast food. And you made a statement of don't be a hardliner. Could you kind of go into that story a little bit and then what you mean by that?
Sure. Well, some guys, look, again, if it's raining, put an umbrella up. If it's hot, put on shorts and a t-shirt. How dumb would I look if it's 10 degrees outside and I'm outside with a shirt, a t-shirt, and shorts, right? How bad does it look if you're a hardliner with somebody just to be a hardliner?
Mm.
It doesn't fit. It didn't. It didn't fit. Okay, it's like me telling you for your anniversary, I say happy birthday. What are you talking about? It doesn't fit, right? So there's a time to be tough when you have to be, and there's a time to laugh. There's a time to be complimentary. There's a time to teach. There's a time to motivate. But the story that you're talking about, we were playing a particular team, and we had lost these guys every year by 1 run. Every year, the past 3 years that we had played them, and they were a much bigger school, much bigger program. The whole 9 yards. So I really, really, I want to win every game, but this game I really wanted to win. So here I am. The game started at I believe at noon. I want my guys there. No later than I like them there around 10:45, whatever. So here it is. I'm there. My wife's in the stands. My daughter's in the stands. I'm there on the field by myself. No players, no nothing. And the other team is doing their calisthenics in order. They look like a military, group, and they look great. Here I am by myself, and fans are laughing. They're saying, "Boy, the players must really dislike this coach, or they're disrespecting him. This is going to be a quick game." They're laughing. They're making all these comments. We're going to use the 10-run mercy rule, which is 10. The other team's up by 10 after 5 innings. So then all of a sudden, here comes 3 of my players. Half of them they're untucked. They got their one shoe on, one shoe off, and I'm not exaggerating. Coach, we're sorry we're late. We stopped to get something to eat, and we hit traffic. I said, yeah, terrific. Go get dressed. Then the other 3 came in because we didn't take a bus. We drove individual cars, or we went in as a group in cars. So then 4 more came. Coach, I'm sorry. I know you're sorry. You're late. You had breakfast. Let's go. Go get dressed. And we looked like a ragtag group. We really did. And like I said, these guys would come in like Noah's Ark, 3 or 4 at a time, and they're telling me they're sorry. And I said, tell me you're sorry at the end of the game. Go get dressed. So they get dressed, and we really had maybe 5 minutes to warm up, if that. So the other team's ready, a little annoyed by us, and they're laughing at us and all that. And, well, we end up winning the game 8-0. Okay. And the other team's coach really just blasted into them. So I don't think that they needed to be, who am I to tell somebody how to coach their team? But I know I wouldn't have. That team tried. It isn't like they goofed off. It isn't like they took it lightly. We beat them. We were, I'd say we were almost as good physically, but we had more heart. We showed more, and plus, we had a better coach. But having said that, but anyway, we won the game. So at the end of the game, I told the guys, "Hey, you guys drive me nuts, but there's not a team I'd rather have other than you guys." And how many of those parents who laughed at us and made fun of us came up to us and they said how much they appreciated how the players were with me, how I was with them. The other coach was a great guy. Yeah, I have to say, he's a terrific guy. And we're very good friends. But the fans just came up to us and said, "Hey, I really appreciate how you were with the players, how they were with you. We thought you guys were going to get killed, this, that, and the other thing." And so that's one of the things. Now, I could have cussed them out when they came in. I could have made them run laps at the end of the game, like some coaches do. I don't understand that point. If a team loses a game, what's sprinting going to do? Okay, again, fix, don't punish. Now, having said all that, if they would have been late, Jason, because they didn't care, my number one rule is never disrespect me and care for this team. Whatever's under that umbrella, adhere to, do it. Okay. So now, if they wouldn't have given a damn, or if they would have been lackadaisical, if they were, mouthing off or something like that, or if they were just late because they had something else to do, then they would have heard about it. Okay. I would have had to put up the umbrella when it was raining. Right. But, no, it was just the way it was. Now, one story that I didn't put in the book that I should have, that just came to mind right now. There was a game where I walked into this one particular coach's office. I was an assistant coach, and I've seen him writing feverishly on this paper. He's writing. I said, "What are you writing?" And he said, "A post-game speech." I said, "You mean a pre-game speech?" He said, "No, I said a post-game speech." I said, "Damn, okay." Well, I'm saying to myself, how can you write a post-game speech when you don't even know what's going to happen?
Right.
So we lose the game, that particular game. But the reason why we lost it, Jason, was because, a few guys tried to take an extra base. They were hustling, but they got thrown out. Or the outfielder tried to throw the ball all the way in the home. Or, a guy, the pitcher maybe, just tried a little bit too hard, or whatever. It was because I don't want to say we tried too hard, obviously, but it was a hustle. They hustled. Okay. So we lost, but it wasn't because they were dogs. They dogged at that game. No, they hustled. So the coach at the end of the game said, "You guys, all you want to do is wear that uniform around campus and be big time. You guys don't care about the game. You guys don't care if we're going to lose. You just want to be known around the college campus as, this particular school's baseball team. You want people to look at you and you're an athlete, this and that." And that did not fit at all. That's like you're asking me questions about leadership, Jason, and I'm telling you about fixing my carburetor.
Right.
So why is he talking about a carburetor? I'm asking questions about, leadership in baseball and how it pertains, how it connects, and he's telling me about a carburetor, but what the speech that he was giving had nothing to do with what just happened. Nothing. So, but again, you make adjustments. Did I want my team there early? Of course. But you know what? I understood why they were late. I knew that they didn't do it to show me up or to disrespect me. So I don't want to say I laughed it off and said, "Yeah, terrific, you're late. Go to the weight room or go to the dressing room, get dressed, get back on the field." And we won the game 8-0.
Yeah, I know. And I think it's, ego plays a role in this, where you could have, like you were saying before, the other guy, he was basically just making a speech to make himself look good and then demean others. And where you're looking at it and saying, okay, this was out of your circumstances. And I know people were making fun and I was standing here by myself, but instead of allowing yourself to be over angry and then, perpetrating that throughout all your players, it's kind of the same thing. There was a story in the book, and I thought it was extremely interesting when, and I want to take it from a different angle, if you don't mind, but it was the story of losing on your birthday.
Oh, yeah.
And I think it was pretty powerful, and I want to talk to it afterwards, but if you wouldn't mind sharing with the audience what happened on your birthday.
Sure. Well, it was October 4th. Well, the one we lost, right? It was October 14th. I believe it was 2008 or 9. I'm usually perfect on dates and years, but I want to say it was probably 2000. Yeah, 2008 or 9. But anyway, we were playing a game, and if we win this particular game, we were going to have the all-time wins record at Carnegie Mellon University. Now you got to remember, they hadn't had a winning season in like 1,000 years, like 40 some odd years, right? And this was going to be the most wins ever. Not our first winning year, but the most wins ever. And I wanted this particular team to have that title because of the type of people they are. I'm looking at a picture of this team right now here in my office, and they were just. I've always had great guys to coach everywhere I've been, but this team was a really special team, and I wanted them to have that record, so to speak. So they were talking about winning the game for me because it was on my birthday. I'm thinking about winning the game because I want that team to have that record. That team wanted to win the game because it was my birthday. Not one of them mentioned, and they knew that I had talked about it, not one of them mentioned, hey, if we win this game, we're going to have the all-time wins mark at CMU. So we're down 8-0. And we made this big comeback starting in the 5th inning, I believe, and we start chipping away. Then we tie it up in the 8th inning. We're home. Everybody's screaming. Everybody's all wound up. But this team was a much bigger school than us and all that kind of stuff. But anyway, so we make this big comeback and we tie it up, Jason. So I have something that most coaches don't have the luxury of having, and that's time to really think. Obviously, you're thinking during the game 3-4 steps ahead of time and all that. But I really had time to think because there was a pitching change. So I'd tell the guy who just hit the game-tying double, I said, look, Brett, we have our number 1, 2, and 3 hitters up next. Okay? If the ball's hit to left field, now if we score, we win the game, it's over. I said, if the ball goes to left field, I'm sending you because the left fielder has no arm and the ball's wet. It's going to be a little bit wet. So I'm sending you. The center fielder, he's going to be playing up on you. But if it's hit towards him, I'm sending you because you're going to get a good jump. It's 2 outs. I always tell my guys, 2 outs. As soon as the guy hits the ball, take off. He's going to already have a big lead, okay, bigger than normal because they weren't holding him on. As soon as it's hit, take off. Center field, take off. Now, if it goes to right field, I don't care where it's hit to right field. You're not going because that guy already threw a runner out. He had a big-time cannon arm, okay? I'm not going to send you. I'm just telling you ahead of time. You got it? Yeah, Coach, yeah. Brett, I'm serious. If it goes to right field, I'm not sending you, okay? Just listen to me. Keep an eye on me and listen to what I'm telling you. I'm not going to, because we have our best hitters coming up, okay? He said, got it, Coach, got it. Okay. So where does the ball get hit? It gets hit to right field. And what does the Italian coach of the year that you had mentioned, all those nice accolades you mentioned, what do? I send them. After seconds, I just told the kid, I'm not going to send you. I send him. And he gets thrown out by so much, Jason, that it wasn't a rundown now, but the catcher had to go chase the runner. It wasn't a rundown. It got there so far ahead of time. So he threw him out. Okay. So I told the guys, I'll never forget. And I can still see it like it was yesterday. It was about, like I said, 11 years ago or so. I said, hey, guys, I messed up. Get me out of this. Were my exact words. Get me out of this. And my players said, don't worry, Coach. We got him. Don't worry. We got him. They weren't down. They didn't maybe they were mad, but they didn't show it. They didn't say anything to me. They just said, don't worry, Coach. We'll get him. Don't worry about it. We'll get him. The other kid, yeah, no, we got him. Don't worry. I said, okay. Well, we didn't get him. We lost the game, and that was our last game of the year. So I remember Well, no, it wasn't last game. It was not the last game of the year. We did get the record. But anyway, so I get the guys on the left field line as is custom. We have a post game speech, and usually I jog down. Well, this time I walked down, Jason. I took my time because I was in tears. I was embarrassed. I was upset, mad at myself, and I got there and I put my hands on my knees and I looked at the ground, and I wear sunglasses when I coach, and my tears were being caught by the glasses. And I said, "Hey, I'm sorry." That's exactly what I said. I said, "Hey, I'm sorry. You guys worked your tails off. You guys poured your heart out onto that field, and I blew it for you. I let the emotions get the best of me. I screwed up. I don't know what else to say other than I'm sorry. You guys deserved that win, and I blew it for you." And I'm still looking at the ground. I did not look. It isn't that I couldn't look them in the face. I just didn't, you know. And again, looking at the ground, looking at the grass, and it's blurry because my tears are being caught by these sunglasses. Then my starting pitcher said, "Coach, if I would have pitched better, we would have won the game." My catcher said, "If I would have gotten the hit with the bases loaded, we would have won the game." "Coach, the shortstop, if I wouldn't have missed that ball, we would have won the game," and so on and so forth. And these guys were blaming themselves. Now, if I would have been a hardliner, by that I mean just a tough guy, just mean, miserable, mad all the time, punish instead of fix, "Coach, I'm having a problem. Hey, it's not my problem. You just worry about baseball." If I wasn't good to these guys, Jason, what they would have done was, "Hey, look at him. He just blew this game." They may not have said it, but they would say, "Good for him. Let him fry in his own juices. Now he knows what we feel like whenever we mess up.
Right.
How does he feel now?" We're all going to mess up. Okay, I don't care. There's not a coach in the history of sports that can say that they didn't mess up. Okay, there's not a leader, a CEO, a business manager, a salesman, whoever. We've all messed up. Okay, so if I would have been embarrassed these guys or hollered them in front of everybody, which is sometimes done, or punished them instead of fixed or not shown any kindness, they would have said, "Let him fry in his own juices. Good for him." But I didn't do that. I was good to those guys, and they returned the favor, so to speak. They said, "You know what, Coach? Hey, it was my fault. We know where you were coming from with it. We got it." And that's something I'll never forget. Never forget that group.
But it's amazing, and I've read a lot of military leadership books and stuff, and I was reading one, and it was Navy SEAL was the author, and he was talking about when a team takes 100% responsibility, every single one of them,
Right.
and so you took 100% responsibility of the game with the mistake you made, and then they took 100% responsibility of the mistakes they made, and I guarantee you that made the trust factor just went through the roof, and the ability to be able to communicate clearly with each other, and everybody not having an ego like that. I mean, I guarantee you that was an awesome team just because of that.
Yeah, and that's a great point. And you said a word that I say a lot in the book: communicate.
Right.
And I did not include this one particular story. And there's a few reasons why I didn't include certain stories, but there was this one game where the coach we were winning and we weren't supposed to, but we were winning this game again. I was an assistant and we were up 5-0 or 5-1. He got the guys in a huddle and he said, "I want you to go up there and swing for the fences or strike out." And people are looking. Why? Because it's supposed to rain at 5:35 and we want to make the game official. I'm saying to myself, wow. Okay, but the guys went up there and they hacked away, and the other team kept coming back 5-2, 5-3. We lose something like 6-5, 7-5, and it never rained. Okay, it never rained until way after the game was over. And looking back on it, I said, "How in the hell did this guy ever get a position like this?" But anyway, and you talk about not trusting your team, not trusting your players, not trusting your employees. I mean, that was the personification of not trusting.
Right.
And he never took responsibility for it. He blamed the guys for not hitting the ball. We had 8 strikeouts in 3 innings and this, that, and that. Well, you told them to hack away at either strike out. He didn't tell them to swing at every pitch. Okay. But basically, again, not basically, it was either hit a home run or strike out. because he wanted to get the game over with. And, you mentioned taking full responsibility. He took zero, none.
Right.
And I look back on it, I said, how in the world was he able to do that? But that's what he did.
Yeah.
And again, I'm not here. I didn't write the book to insult anybody or say, hey, how great Claudio is. I'm just telling you what happened. And some of these people may even deny it, and that's fine. I don't care one way or the other. I don't think I don't think I have that kind of an imagination and can be that specific if I was making these things up. But nonetheless, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No. I think it just shows to that, like you have in your book, creating a positive winning culture, on the field, and you have it in the office too. But there's kind of a dichotomy with this, and you went into this a little bit on, because we're talking about, saying I'm proud of you and being caring, and okay, you're a little bit late. It wasn't your, and we're kind of we're showing a lot of forgiveness. But as a new leader, you talk about becoming a new leader and that you have to nip things in the bud.
Yeah.
So, if somebody's out there and they're a new leader, can you share a little bit about that and how you can, because you still need to be firm. They still need to have respect for you.
Without question. I'm not here, and I even said it in the book at the beginning. I'm not here to say this is a sappy book, love Dove, everything's great, Pollyanna. Sure, what? No, I cannot let somebody walk on me. I cannot let somebody disrespect me because that's how it's not how I'm wired. And I would never want a coach, a leader, or anybody to think, oh yeah, just everything's great. Take everybody's guff, so to speak. No, not at all. Now, talk about new leaders. My very first day as a high school coach in March of 1988, I was 23 years old. And you got to remember, I was an assistant coach for 5 years. So these guys, and some of them, I was, pretty good friends with. But anyway, I had a very good relationship. So our first day of practice, I said, guys, I can tell you exactly where obviously where the gym was, but where the spot was where this occurred. So I told the guys, look, we were supposed to be inside, but it's pretty nice outside, so we can go outside. So let's get our cleats on and go outside. This one kid lets out a sigh and rolls his eyes and throws his head back. He goes, I don't want to go outside. And I told him, hey, Al, I don't give a damn if you go outside, stay inside, quit, play. I really don't care. It doesn't matter to me. I said, matter of fact, you can get the hell out of here now if you want. And I just snapped on him right then and there.
Right.
Okay. And his face, I can still see his face. It froze, and the whole team right then and there knew, okay, Claudio's a great guy, and the whole 9 yards. But let's not cross that line. and I tell guys all the time. I said, look, don't mistake my kindness for being soft or weak. Is the exact quote. I'm not weak. Okay, I'm just trying to be nice to you guys. Now, if you take advantage of that, then I'm really gonna. The punishment will not fit the crime. Trust me when I tell you. Okay, if you're good to me, and I say this with my friends, I say it with my family. If you're good to me, and my dad was like this, you own me. I'll do whatever I can for you. I believe it was Napoleon said you can have a friend at 3:00 in the afternoon. That's easy. But do you have any 3:00 in the morning friends? That's when you know you have a friend. I can be that 3:00 in the morning friend, but at the same time, if you push me and you try to take advantage of me or you disrespect me, then I'm not going to put up with it. That's for damn sure. And I'm going to say a lot and things probably you've never heard said to you before. Okay. And so I tell a young leader, you have to establish who you are right off the bat, what you're going to accept and what you will not accept. This is who I am. My players know who I am. They know about my parents. They know who my wife is, what she does. They know about my daughter, where she goes to school. They know my trials and tribulations. They know every damn thing about me. Okay. They know what I will put up with. They know what I won't put up with. You know why? Because of that word you mentioned about 10 minutes ago. Communicate. Let people know. I'm not, a coach doesn't. Some coaches, like I'm a real stickler for being on time. I mean, I am never late. I'm always, be it an interview because you don't know if you're going to have some tech issues or at an airplane, or I'm at the airport. If my flight leaves at 8, I'm there at 5:30, probably 5:30. Okay, so that's just me. Now at CMU, we have to be a little bit different with the times, but my point is, some coaches, that like Vince Lombardi used to call it Lombardi time, which is being 15 minutes early, right? So you knew not to be late for Vince Lombardi. That was his stickler, okay, or his button, okay. Certain guys have this button, certain guys have that button. For me, it's don't disrespect me. That's my button, and so you have to have a button, whatever that is, but you also have to tell. It's like if you invite me over to dinner, Jason. Okay, Claudio. What would you like to eat? I'd say, well, whatever you want to make is fine. Well, are you allergic to anything? No. Now, let's say I was. Let's say I didn't like certain foods. Okay, I'm not. I don't like meat, Jason. I don't like ranch dressing, Jason. I don't like foods. At least you can narrow it down. You know what I like and don't like. So communicate. Let people know who you are, and then they'll know what not to do and how to react. But I tell a new leader right off the bat, like I said that day, I went into the day looking forward to practice and excited and having a good time. But at the same time, that kid did what he did. And if I would have said nothing, or if I would have said, well, okay, maybe we'll stay in. Okay. That team would have said, geez, is he going to be our leader? Or is he just going to be like a friend and we're just kind of here just to kind of play, and it's going to be kind of almost like intramurals, like pickup? No, I wanted to make damn sure they knew, who was in charge. And I'm really good with my players, but if I have to, then again, put up an umbrella training, right? If it's hot, t-shirt, shorts, whatever. In other words, what that means, I keep saying that, whatever the situation calls for. Okay, if you see somebody somewhere, you can crack a joke. Well, you kind of look like an idiot if you crack a joke at a funeral. You know what I mean? Whatever the situation calls for, do. Simple.
No, I love that. And I know we're coming up on the hour. So Claudio, I want you to talk about this, because this, it's an old quote, and I know you kind of took it and kind of made it your own. And I know you embody this with your players. And I think this is an important word. You said, don't care what you know until they know you care.
Right.
How did you show that you cared with your players?
Well, first of all, I just found out that Teddy Roosevelt is the one who originated that quote, but I heard it from a man who won a Super Bowl several years ago, Dick Vermeil, who one of the biggest compliments I've ever had is when somebody said, hey, you remind me of Jim Valvano, who was a friend of mine, or Dick Vermeil. I love Dick Vermeil. Matter of fact, he's going to be on my show in a couple of weeks. But how did I show it? I show it all the time I ask them, hey, how's school going? And it's from the heart up, not the neck up. How's your parents doing? It's from the heart up, not the neck up. How's your girlfriend and you? How are things going? Or then we'll talk about, I have a kind of a line when you graduate and you're making a good buck, don't go out and buy a $300 mailbox. Buy one for $25. Watch your money, because you never know when it's going to rain. Obviously, like in March with the pandemic, things happen. So,
right.
And then, for example, if they have an issue, I've had players come up to me and they've said, look, my goal for when they leave is for them to be upset. I want them to be upset that they're leaving the team and being upset that they leave me. Okay. I don't want them to be glad they're leaving. So I show them that I care by, whatever the situation is. I've had players, for example, this happened in 1993 and it happened in 2019. The exact same thing. And these players came up to me in 93 and 2019, and they said, Coach, what time's practice over? And I said, it's over at 8. Why? What's up? So, well, we have a concert that we're going to, and both of them were the exact same story. We have a concert that we're going to go to, so I was wondering if we could leave practice maybe around 7. I said, what time does the concert start? They said 8. I said, well, by the time you leave, here, go get clean. By the time you get to your dorm or your house, by the time you get cleaned up, then you're going to rush to the car, go pick up your friends, get in traffic. You're going to be rushing around. You're probably going to be late, finding parking. God forbid you get into an accident. Okay? Leave. Don't come to practice today. Just go to the concert. Now, you might think, and this year, not 93, because there were no such thing as text, but in 2019, I texted a guy I said, look, Casey, I let you go to to the concert out of practice. Number one, because you work hard at practice, and you're a good young man. But I didn't want you to think that practice doesn't matter. Go ahead and go. Not it at all. And he knew that that's not what I meant. I wanted to show him, number one, I did care because I've been in that position where I run around, and we all have.
Right.
You got to be somewhere at 8. How am I going to make it? I got to get dressed, got to get cleaned up, I got to pick up this guy, that guy, got to find parking, and you rush, and the whole concert, is just a mess. And then, God forbid, as I said, you get into an accident. So he looked at me. It's like, wow, okay, and because he knew that I cared, I showed him. I just didn't tell him. Okay, telling him, yeah, I care for you, Casey. That'd have been from the neck up, but showing him is from the heart up. And the same thing happened in '93, the exact same thing. And and those guys, I said, look, get some hitting in whenever you can at the cages, get some throws in, run when you can. And those guys, I didn't have to tell them that because showing their appreciation for me, they did that on their own. And they worked even harder for me because they knew that I did care for them. They probably weren't used to that from a coach, because another coach would have said, you can leave at 7:15 or maybe 7 o'clock. I just said, leave now. It was like 5:30. I said, leave now. Don't even show up to practice. And that's how you show them, Jason. And you build trust and you build relationships. And I think you'll see at the end of the book, some of the things I was blown away by. That I was surprised some of these guys remembered these things. And like I said, the first part of the book is some stories, and the middle of the book are some Q&A that I got some great questions, and at the end of it are player testimonials. And it's from the heart for sure.
No, I love that, and I think it shows a testament to what type of coach that you were. I know you have a podcast, Claudio, and you do like you had said. You mentioned a good friend of yours that these sports legends. Can you talk a little bit about your podcast?
Sure. Thank you for asking. I interview sports legends from the 70s, 80s, and 90s, and I've had some fantastic guests on, like Ken Griffey Sr., Rocky Blyer, Roman Gabriel, Jerry Cooney, Donnie Lalonde, Vinny Paz, a couple weeks, Dick Vermeil, Super Bowl winning quarterback, Vince Ferragamo, the quarterback of the Rams, 1979 Super Bowl. And the thing that gets me about these guys are not only are they good people, but they're not stuck up. They're not arrogant people. They're nice to their fans. They're nice to people. And that's what attracts me to them. Not just that they were great at what they did or what they do, but they're good people and they want to have impact on people. And a friend of mine who had a ton of impact on me, I mentioned earlier, Jim Valvano, the NC State basketball champion coach who unfortunately passed, and he has the Jimmy V Cancer Fund on ESPN. I'm sure you've seen the speech. He used to tell me, he didn't tell me this personally, but his quote to me was, "Don't mess with happy." I'll never forget that. But his quote was, his favorite word in the English dictionary was the word impact. And I've always wanted to have impact on people, and these people have impact on people, but they're great people. And I also interview some friends of mine. We talk about sports, and would love to have you on the show if you have time.
Yes,
you'd be great. And I really enjoy the show, and it's on my website, ClaudioReilsono.com, which is hard to spell, but I'm sure if you punch it up somehow, it'll come up to my website. And the interviews are good, and the guys, I get emotional on some of them because these guys mean a lot to me. And I think the show's going well. We're going on, I think, now episode number 97. We've been doing it for a couple of years. I had a great producer in Adam Zaloof, some great sponsors, and I enjoy doing it.
That's so awesome, and I love that, and I think it's much needed so that we can learn from those that are champions and have been champions. I want to ask you kind of, and I don't know how you can approach this, but I know as far as baseball, and I'm not a baseball fan, but when I look at like Major League Baseball, or you look at baseball in general, when you look at the leadership and what's going on in baseball, and I know this year was good with COVID and everything, I think you had, a lot of people watched it on, they were watching it online with apps now or whatever, it seemed like it was really engaged. What do you think leadership in baseball is now compared to how it was, and I know people's changed and stuff like that, but compared to how it was, in the 60s, 70s, and 80s?
Great question. And I'm giving you my opinion. And not that these guys don't know their X's and O's, or not that they're not good people, because I don't know. I, you know, I work in professional baseball, but I don't know any of the managers. The one manager I did know well, Clint Hurdle of the Pirates, was fired, so I don't know any of the major league managers. So I'm not judging them. Maybe I am judging them, but the guys that I grew up with, the Chuck Tanners, the Tony La Russa's, who's back in coaching. He's the oldest coach in the game, I think. They just got the White Sox job. Those guys, Whitey Herzog, Billy Martin, those guys were leaders. They knew the game and they managed from their guts.
Okay? Yes.
And they were loved by their players. Like Chuck Tanner, I knew Chuck, and I knew a lot of the old Pirates from the 70s. I'm friends with a lot of them. And the stories they tell me about him, that he was great with you, but don't cross that line, okay, because you don't want to upset Chuck. But they love him to this day. The managers today, and I don't know if you heard, but the last game of the World Series, the Tampa Bay manager made I don't think a very good move by taking his best pitcher out when he was pitching great. Okay, and to me, that's what lost the game. But it seems like they're leading. I know they're passionate for the game. Don't get me wrong. I know they want to win. I know they care. But the game has become totally analytics, stats, everything stats. For example, yesterday, the Pittsburgh Steelers played the Baltimore Ravens. If you look at the statistics, the Baltimore Ravens, you'd say for sure, they had over 200 yards rushing. They had this. They had time of possession. The Ravens should have won that game, but they didn't. The Steelers won. Stats are terrific as a reference, but anymore they use them as this is it, no matter what. They don't take in consideration heart or the situation or hustle. Like the young man he took out, Blake Snell, was pitching great, Jason. And then when he took him out, you could see the displeasure on his face. And not only the displeasure on his face, but the whole Tampa Bay team was deflated, and the Dodgers were inflated because, man, thank God he took this pitcher out because we weren't hitting him today. Okay, so I think that's lacking. I don't see the, you don't have to be demonstrative or anything like that, but they just don't do that anymore. They don't have a feel for the game anymore. Maybe they're not allowed to because of the higher ups in the organization. I don't know.
Yeah, that's and that's something, like, because you can ask, like you ask these young kids, nowadays, who's the top, Major League Baseball player, and a lot of people can't name one, two, or three of them,
Isn't that the truth?
And then you look at, basketball or some of these others, and I know there's been controversy with that and everything going on, the political and all that stuff and on the NBA side of things. But when you look at baseball, it's kind of like you said, it's so analytics, and so they focus so much on that heart is there, and that's what attracts people. That's what causes people to. Because I can remember as a little kid, even though I never really got into baseball as a basketball guy, but it was, like baseball fans were like super diehard. Like, I mean, they loved the team, and it was, they knew everything about every player, and you had baseball cards, and I mean, that's where the cards came from, was baseball. And it's like, where, and I don't know if it's like you said, the top tier leadership or, and I'm, sitting as an outsider, but, as far as being relevant with what's going on today, and it's sad because, I mean, this is America's pastime. I mean, it's been known as that, but it seems like it's just, it's not something, there's like and I know this year was really good for baseball, but it seems like there's like a misstep between, the new culture that's out there, and baseball is one of the hardest sports. I mean, the difference between, I've heard the difference between a minor player and a major player is not that big.
It's not. And you're exactly right. And, look, I love doing what I'm doing. I thank God and I thank my parents every day that I'm doing what I'm doing. But I've been a little bit critical of baseball, the way that, for example, you can't. I'm 56. I grew up with the Reggie Jacksons, who would admire a home run. He wouldn't embarrass the other team. He just was colorful.
Right.
Ricky Henderson with the snatch catch and the wristbands, and Dave Parker with the way he would carry himself he oozed confidence, okay? But now in baseball, they have all these unwritten rules. If you're up by 3, you can't steal, you can't slink at the first pitch. Earlier this year, I think it was Tatis, I believe, Jr., he hit a grand slam for the San Diego Padres. And I remember tuning into the TV the next day, and they said, "You won't believe what Tatis Jr. did." And I said, "Oh my God, what did he do?" I'm pretty sure it was Tatis Jr., almost positive. And I said, "What did he do?" He hit a grand slam. I said, "Well, okay, what did he do?" The team was up 6-2 in the last inning, and the first pitch he saw it, he swung and he hit a grand slam. And the manager apologized for him. The opposing manager was very critical, and his own manager apologized and said, "Well, he'll learn. He'll learn from this." I'm saying to myself, "Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me?" But that's baseball. Because they're so worried about embarrassing the other team and embarrassing the game. That's garbage. I've been criticized because I tell my team this: look, we're up 10, let's score 11. We're down 10, let's score 11. This one coach one time he came to me. We were down 10-0, and I kept hitting runs, stealing and stuff. He says, "What are you doing?" I said, "What do you mean? You're stealing. You're down 10-2. I said, "Coach, we're trying to win the game." He said, "You're disrespecting us and the game." I said, "How am I disrespecting you? I'd be disrespecting you and the game if I just said, yeah, go ahead and pound us to death, 30-0. We'll just sit here." I tell my guys that it's in the book as well. I said, let's do something that we can tell our grandkids about if we're down by a lot of runs, right? Now, we lost that game 12-8, but I don't get this, we can't celebrate our home. And it's just ridiculous. And what they're doing is they're taking the fun out of the game. And the players do not have the personalities that I grew up with. That's
yes,
sure.
100%. Yeah. I was noticing the names that you were saying, like the names you were saying, I could remember those, but you could start naming players now. And I think one of the things, I have a marketing, brain, and that's what I do. And when Major League Baseball, and I'm speaking as an outsider, but just seeing from the marketing side of things, they make everything go through them. So like a player having an Instagram account or anything like that, it's like everything has to be, approved. And it's like, let these guys have a personality. That's part of the game, like the Dennis Rodmans, and you look at that, Jordan was so straight laced and so driven. And you can see that in that amazing documentary, on ESPN. Right. And then you see Dennis Rodman, who's, half drunk coming out, and just, breaking, just getting rebound after rebound. But we all love that, I mean, that the Patrick Ewings and, I mean, there was a personality to every single player, and you could almost like feel that and live that. And you would play that way. Like we all imitated players.
Exactly. And you mentioned you're a basketball guy, and you're on the same page as me. You mentioned basketball. I don't know how old you are, but Pete Maravich was the greatest showman of all time, right? Pete Maravich and Magic Johnson, Larry Bird.
Yes.
I still love watching the way those guys would pass. And I would go, "Oh!" I mean, if you look at the Dream Team of '92, I have a poster here. I'm looking at it right now in my office. Charles Barkley, Karl Malone, John Stockton, Michael Jordan, Drexler, Bird, Magic, and those guys had an it factor that nowadays, if you, like, for example, and you had a great line about, we copied those guys. I'm looking at a plaque here of Joe Namath. I wear wristbands. I mean, I have to wear something on my wrist all the time when I'm doing something athletic because I used to wear wristbands. Why do I wear wristbands? Because of Joe Namath. I wear white shoes all the time. Why? Because of Joe Namath. And then I used to make basket catches. A basket catch is when you catch the ball below your belt buckle, right? I got that from Lee Mazzilli and Roberto Clemente. And I used to do snatch catches because it's like you catch the ball out of the air and you snatch it. Ricky Henderson used to do that. And we used to bat like those guys. Now, these guys are all cookie cutters. If you look at the pictures of the 70s, the Jim Palmers, the Seavers, the Marishalls, the Carltons, they all had a distinct thing about them. Where now, Louis Tiant, all these guys today, they're cookie cutter. And I'm not trying to insult anybody. I'm giving you my observation. Here's what I say about today's players. They look like somebody that you would see at the mall, that works at the mall. Okay. And, back, there's like, I'm looking at the 19th. I was fortunate enough to know a lot of the 1979 champion Pirates. I was invited to the reunion, the 40-year reunion last July. And they still have it. And these guys are in their 60s and 70s, okay? And they had a personality. Mm-hmm. They were colorful. And I have an old album that my dad bought me years ago of the '71 Pirates, and they had a personality to them. Louis Sarge, the way he would do his bat thing, wave his bat, and all that kind of stuff, and the wristbands and the taping the fingers. We'd all do that, and it's gone. And there's no more Joe. Now, Joe Montana was not a mouse, but he had an it factor. Kurt Warner, a couple years ago, was not a mouth. He wasn't he wasn't a great big person, but he had an it factor. And in baseball, boy, I'm trying to think. The best manager that I've seen in a long time, Ozzie Guillen, is not managing because he doesn't have a filter. He's got a personality. He's not in the game. But so that's where the game is. And I'm with you. You have to have that carrot dangling. You have to. Why do I want to watch that? Right.
Exactly.
Okay? And I don't see it.
I just think it's
unfortunate.
Yeah, and it's like you want to see the Mavericks. You want to see that passion. It's like it's like, okay, Dennis Rodman's crazy. He's got purple hair and he's dating Madonna. It's like the craziest thing ever. Yeah. And then he comes onto the court. When he was on, he would come on the court and just dominate. And it was just like you're like, that guy's. He's different. He's unique. He's just living who he wants to be. Right. And it was
from the outside that we said about Rocky Graziano. Let people be who they are. I'm looking at this picture, that Dream Team picture, which is one of my favorite teams. David Robinson was as straight-laced as you can get. Navy.
Yes.
I mean, decorated, wonderful man, intelligent man, giving man, just a good man. He would never paint his hair purple. He wouldn't want him to. That's not who he is. You let people be who they are, and you hit it right on the head. And when you said about Major League Baseball, you have to go through them. And no, you can't do this. You can't. Come on. It's entertainment.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what we love. And we'd emulate as children. And it caused us not to, have this cookie cutter, like you said. And I think that's a perfect world, this cookie cutter world. Let our personality shine and allow us to be. And if we get in trouble, then we have to ask for forgiveness. How many players did you see have to eat crow and stand in front of a camera and apologize?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, but, there's no Joe Namath anymore and Reggie Jacksons and even forget about those guys. There was other guys who were maybe not as well known. Tom Seaver was a Hall of Famer, one of the best pitchers of all time. I loved listening to him. He was a very articulate guy. I just loved listening to his interviews, but he wasn't a braggart or anything like that. But there's no guys that talk in depth about pitching the way he did, like it was an art. And I just love that. And it's just gone. I real quick, the Dodgers a few years ago, and again, I'm not trying to insult anybody. I'm just telling you my opinion. The Dodgers pitched a no-hitter. 3 guys pitched a no-hitter, and they interviewed all 3 of them. So you guys had a combined no-hitter. How was it? One guy goes, it was pretty cool. Okay, what would you think about it? You had been pretty emotional about it. What did you think? Yeah, it was great, and it was just cool that we did it. You hear crickets, and then that same day, Andrew McCutchen, a very popular Pirate player, was traded, and he came back into town with his new team, and they asked the Pirate pitcher, so how was it to see the fans standing ovation for Andrew McCutchen and cheering him and all that? He goes, yeah, it was pretty cool. Well, how was it to face him, a former friend? I mean, a friend and a player, a former teammate. How was that? Yeah, it was just really cool. I'm saying, you know what? That really bothered the hell out of me. I'll be honest with you. Cool. Can't you come up with Dave Parker used to say 3 things are for sure. The Suns are going to sign. How the hell was it? Wait a minute. 2 things are for sure. The Suns are going to sign. I knew this quote like there's no tomorrow. I'm forgetting it. No, I don't want to. Not too much.
But when you
anyway, he had great quotes. Reggie Jackson. I'm the straw that stirs the drink.
Yes.
Joe Namath is guaranteed. I forgot what the heck is the sun's going to shine. I forgot. I know this quote for some reason. I'm freezing on it. But Dave Parker had a great quote. I'll text it to you when he says. But these guys just don't have that it factor, and I missed that, and it was fun.
But I'm wondering if it's
yeah.
it's them and the fear that's put in them, and if there's a behind the scenes.
A lot of people say that.
Yeah,
a
and
lot of
they're
people
being
say
coached. That's what I look at when I see these interviews. Where that pressure is put on. And so especially in baseball, because it is so hard. I mean, it's one of the hardest, if not the hardest sports out there. Then one misstep or one wrong thing, or now you got all this cancel culture and all this other stuff going on.
Right.
It's like there's this nervousness about. You can almost see that when they're being interviewed.
True. I'll answer that, but I remember the quote: "When the leaves turn brown, I'll be wearing the triple crown." Dave Parker. Yes. I remember that. Now, okay, now I got it. Good. It was bothering me, but anyway, what you said, a lot of people say that to me, but I'm going to say 80% of the time, it's them. That's just who they are. They had something called, doesn't matter who the team was, but they had them mic'd, right? And it was brutal. It was brutal.
Right.
They were trying to be funny. They were trying to sing. They were trying to joke. And it was just not who they were. It's not who they were. I could talk to you about baseball all day long. Terrific. Great. But if you ask me about, again, carburetors, I have no idea what I'm talking about. It's going to be, I'm not going to make any sense. It's going to be very uncomfortable. But, a lot of people say that they were coached or this is where they are. And another thing, there was some players, they did this little series. They followed these guys and they went to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. And these are kind of, pretty nice names in baseball. Nobody knew who they were.
Yes, yeah.
When I went to the 79 reunion last year, we first met at the hotel. The hotel lobby was packed with these for autographs and to see these guys and say hello and thank you. And I won't, not a long story, but Joe Namath years ago, I one of my favorites, as I mentioned, people would say, "Joe, thank you for the memories," and he would say, "Hey, thank you." I mean, Namath is just an icon, and
yes,
he still has it. He still has that thing about him, and either you're born with it or you're not. I mean, you can improve your speaking, you can improve your whatever, but at the end of the day, if you have that personality, like I said, Joe Namath, Joe Montana was not a big talker by no means. Okay. Matter of fact, when he did TV, he was uncomfortable, but when he played, there was an it factor to him.
Right.
Okay. So I think you either have it or you don't.
Yeah, and I think you can see that. I know I'm from Seattle originally, so a big Seattle fan. And, Russell Wilson's pretty straight-laced, like a David Robinson type, But when he stands before a mic, sometimes he doesn't mind, like you said, taking responsibility and,
right.
And saying when he made mistakes, because he's made some pretty big mistakes at pretty big times, but he always owns up to them. And I just feel like there's this underlying, especially with Major League Baseball, there's like this. And I don't know if it's just the higher up leadership, and like I said, I'm an outsider just looking in, and then there's like this control aspect of wanting to control everything. When it's just sad, like I said, because this is, out of all the sports, I think football's become number one, but there was a time when baseball was there, like you said, 79 and the 80s. It was it, for so many years, people. Baseball was life,
Well, two things. I said this to Jim Rooker, the former Pirate pitcher. I said, Jim, if I were 8 years old now and I went to my first game, because August 19th, 1973, I knew what I wanted to do that day. It was my very first baseball game ever. I knew what I wanted to do. I saw these guys in the locker room and how they were playing around, joking around. If I were 8 years old now, I don't think I would have had that dream hit me like it did in 73. And real quick, you mentioned Seattle. You're a Seattle Seahawks fan. Do you remember the name Chuck Knox?
Yes.
The head coach. Well, Chuck was like an uncle to me. He
was
born and raised, and where I live is Sewell, Pennsylvania, just outside of Pittsburgh. And he grew up with him. My dad grew up together, and Chuck used to come here every holiday. And we lived and died, with him. When he was with the Rams, Buffalo, and the Seahawks. And he had a ton of impact in my life. I'm looking at a LA Rams, Buffalo Bills, and a Seattle Seahawks pennant. My office looks like a sporting.
Oh, that's awesome! Yeah.
But Chuck was oh boy, Chuck was unbelievable memories. But then again, the playoffs, things kind of didn't go the way they should have, the way we wanted them to. But Chuck was very important to me.
Yeah, and I think
Sure.
even with him, I mean, you saw, and he was probably that last of the breed, and you can still kind of see it a little bit in football, but that strong leadership, where they respected you as a coach, where there was, even though you could be soft like Phil Jackson or something like that, there still was this huge amount of respect for the coach, and that's something that nowadays and I think a lot of it has to do, we have to blame ourselves, the leadership. We can't blame the kids for it,
Well, the Italians have a saying, the fish thinks from the head. So in other
Yes.
words, if it's bad up top, it trickles down. And we mentioned Chuck. I'm sure you remember the quarterback, I believe Dave Brown was the team captain. And there was a big game. I believe it was when the Seattle beat the Rams, where Chuck used to coach, or Buffalo, one or the other. I forgot what team they beat, but they gave Chuck the game ball, and they start chanting. It's on NFL film. They start screaming, Chuck, 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 and they gave him the ball. And I'll never forget, and I get emotional even thinking about this, but he got the ball and he just hunched over and he just started crying, and Chuck, let me tell you something. Chuck he grew up tough in a tough area, tough times, but at the same time was, they moved him to tears. Again, we talked about a couple minutes ago, umbrella, adapt to the situation. I guarantee you when there was something that needed to be straightened out, Chuck straightened it out.
Yes, 100%.
Okay? But
Yep.
when they chanted Chuck, 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 he just said, "Okay, guys, thank you," and walked away. We wanted a little bit more out of that. You know what I mean? The team's, oh man, we just gave him a game ball, and he just said thanks. He didn't say anything. He just cried, and you could see Dave Brown just smiling, and he started getting choked up, and just a great moment. And I think when you do lead from the heart up, again, your team is going to be like that too. They say that the team is the coach's signature.
Yes.
And if you behave that way, and look, my guys are from all over the world. Everybody's raised differently. But if you saw us after a game, during a game, I mean, you'll see these guys, they're like 6'4", 6'5", they're putting their arm around me. I'm talking to them during a game or whatever. They just sense that there's a closeness there. And I'm going to tell you something else. I'm not here saying it's all me, because I could be the greatest coach in the world, the greatest guy in the world, the biggest heart in the world. If I don't have the players to reciprocate, to listen to that, to soak it in, to buy into it, I'm done. Real quick, you tell me when to shut up. But we had the team that won 2 straight conference titles. Great team, great group of guys. We started off the next season, and this is in the book. We started off, I believe, 0-5. I said, guys, for us to make the playoffs, we have to win 8 games in a row. And they looked at me like, 8 games in a row? How the hell? I said, well, the young boys. So somebody said, how are we going to win 8 games in a row, coach? Their face said that, right?
Right.
Their body language said that. I said, the young boy asked the old man, how do you achieve success in life? The old man said, by eating an elephant. The young boy said, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time, right? So I remember when our next game, Jason, whenever we would break the huddle, we always used to say win or CMU or Tartans or whatever, right? This time, on their own, I gave them the speech. I said, okay, guys, let's go out there and get him. And they said, elephant. Now, the other team snickered. They laughed. But I said, this team, they get it. And they took that in. Now, we didn't win 8 games in a row. We won 5 in a row. But that was a special team. Okay. Then, they remember my quotes and stuff like that. That's when you know you have something. I can have the greatest quotes in the world. They say, elephants. What the hell is he talking about, elephants? Get out of here with that. No, you have to have special people. The old real estate thing. What's the 3 most important things? So real estate, good location, good location, good location.
Right.
I say the 3 most important things in business and coaching, in life, is good people, good people, good people. If you have good people,
Yes,
man, you have a shot to tear it up. You really, to be a success.
I love that. And Claudio, thank you for being on the ABQ Business Podcast. I want to encourage everybody to go, you can go to Amazon and get the book. It's Lead from the Heart Up, Not the Neck Up, How to Create a Positive Winning Culture on the Field and in the Office. And then Claudio, can you give your website again and then your podcast name?
You got it. It's called the Claudio Reilsono Show. Pretty inventive. Interviewing sports legends of the 70s, 80s, and 90s. And I also have hot sports topics. I talk with some friends, and I said, look, I'd love to have you on. You tell me when you want to come on. We'll get you on. And then the website is, I'll spell it for you, ClaudioReilsono.com, ClaudioReilsono.com.
Well, thank you, Claudio. I appreciate it. This has been a truly amazing episode.
I really had a great time. You have no idea. I mean, you were fantastic, giving great questions. I really enjoyed it. I appreciate the opportunity, and thank you so much. I can see why you're a success because you're just great at doing this. So I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks, Claudio.
Thank you for joining us on the Albuquerque Business Podcast. And thanks to our sponsor, RigbyDigital.com. Make sure to subscribe and share. And go to abqpodcast.com. Get show notes, resources, and links to everything we talked about today to help you navigate your journey as an entrepreneur and business owner.